The supreme reality of our time is the vulnerability of our planet. If not us, who? If not now, when? There are risks and costs to action, but they are far less than the long-range risks of comfortable inaction. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. The goal of education is the advancement of knowledge and the dissemination of truth. Every accomplishment starts with the decision to try. Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. Children are the world's most valuable resource and its best hope for the future. Our progress as a nation can be no swifter than our progress in education. Life is never easy. There is work to be done and obligations to be met, obligations to truth, to justice, and to liberty. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. Leadership and learning are indispensable to one another. It is time for a new generation of leadership to cope with new problems and new opportunities. For there is a new world to be won. Those who dare to fail miserably can achieve greatly. Forgive your enemies, but never forget their names. We must use time as a tool, not as a couch. The time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. We must find time to stop and thank the people who make a difference in our lives. Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. Do not pray for easy lives, pray to be stronger men. Too often, we enjoy the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought. Our problems are man-made, therefore, they may be solved by man. No problem of human destiny is beyond human beings. A man may die, nations may rise and fall, but an idea lives on. Efforts and courage are not enough without purpose and direction. The ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all. The greater our knowledge increases, the more our ignorance unfolds. We have the power to make this the best generation of mankind in the history of the world, or make it the last. Physical fitness is not only one of the most important keys to a healthy body, it is the basis of dynamic and creative intellectual activity. The rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened. Mankind must put an end to war before war puts an end to mankind. Mothers all want their sons to grow up to be president, but they don't want them to become politicians in the process. A child miseducated is a child lost. Liberty without learning is always in peril, and learning without liberty is always in vain. Things do not happen. Things are made to happen. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. If we cannot end now our differences, at least we can help make the world safe for diversity. The cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender or submission. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. Let us never negotiate out of fear. But let us never fear to negotiate. If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. This country cannot afford to be materially rich and spiritually poor. I look forward to an America which will not be afraid of grace and beauty. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. The one unchangeable certainty is that nothing is unchangeable or certain. man is still the most extraordinary computer of all. The unity of freedom has never relied on uniformity of opinion. I would rather be accused of breaking precedents than breaking promises. If freedom is to survive and prosper, it will require the sacrifice, the effort, and the thoughtful attention of every citizen. Let us not emphasize all on which we differ, but all we have in common. Let us consider not what we fear separately, but what we share together. If more politicians knew poetry, and more poets knew politics, I am convinced the world would be a little better place in which to live. Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or the present are certain to miss the future. Children are the world's most valuable resource and its best hope for the future. For one true measure of a nation is its success in fulfilling the promise of a better life for each of its members. Let this be the measure of our nation. The success of this government, and thus the success of our nation, depends in the last analysis upon the quality of our career services. War will exist until that distant day when the conscientious objector enjoys the same reputation and prestige that the warrior does today. In the Chinese language, the word crisis is composed of two characters, one representing danger and the other, opportunity. Rising tide lifts all boats. We can say with some assurance that, although children may be the victims of fate, they will not be the victims of our neglect. The federal budget can and should be made an instrument of prosperity and stability, not a deterrent to recovery. We must never forget that art is not a form of propaganda, it is a form of truth. The time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining by filling three basic gaps in our anti-recession protection. In serving his vision of the truth, the artist best serves his nation. We celebrate the past to awaken the future. A nation reveals itself not only by the men it produces, but also by the men it honors, the men it remembers. We have become more and more not a nation of athletes, but a nation of spectators. I have a nice home, the office is close by, and the pay is good. But however close we sometimes seem to that dark and final abyss, let no man of peace and freedom despair. For he does not stand alone. We must think and act not only for the moment, but for our time. Dante once said that the hottest places in hell are reserved for those who in periods of moral crisis maintain their neutrality. This nation has tossed its cap over the wall of space, and we have no choice but to follow it. Victory has 100 fathers, and defeat is an orphan. Leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. Public libraries should be open.